Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Over the past few months of this year, we have been hearing more and more about the remarkable capabilities of the COVID vaccine. It has the ability to reduce strokes, heart attacks, it seems to reduce cancer. Children don't get sick. I don't even think you get into car accidents. It's quite remarkable, some of the claims that have been coming through, even in peer review science. So the next one is, could it protect against monkeypox? Why am I talking about monkeypox at this point? It's largely because the WHO has declared that it is a public health emergency of international concern. And this was done on the 14th of August, 2024. This is pretty significant, and it's spreading significantly in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and they are worried that it will spread to the rest of the world. The reason they're worried about that is because this is what happened in 2022. And let me tell you something. There is something about when you don't try and find answers, when you are willing to not turn every stone, you run into problems. And this is what I think we're seeing at the moment, because in 2022, when we had a global monkeypox outbreak, where it was relatively mild, not a lot of people died, but across the world, it made no sense. In non endemic regions, monkeypox was spreading. Did we get an explanation as to why? No, it was just another one of those things. I am very tired of this approach to science and medicine. You got to have an answer. What's the mechanism? Why did it occur? Why did it occur at this time? What was the reason? At the time, I highlighted a few points which didn't get much traction and was an inconvenient question. And this is what I'll be dealing with today. So, truthfully, you can't see this whole video because when I talk about what I think is going on, it won't be kept. So, for the pieces where I explain what I'm looking at with the science, you're going to have to see it on my Substack. The link will be in the description, so make sure to look at it. Before I get into the early part of the science, please remember to join me on the Health and Wellness Network, answering your pressing questions on health issues. The link is below. We are having our session 1 coming up, and my hope is that we will be able to deal with as many questions as we can and try and get answers. I'm trying to give objective, clean, straightforward talk, and this is what we'll be doing. So please join us. This is hopefully going to be a regular session, and we hope to bring more information to you. Additionally, remember, storm, spike triggered autoimmune response mechanism. This is a very serious issue. I'm working on a paper. Hopefully, we'll try and get it out to you all very soon. This is what I think is going to be happening in the next few months, and we need to understand it. So if you want to learn more about that, please click on the links below. Remember to subscribe. Well, let's get back to this question about monkeypox. Now, as I said, I'm going to be asking some inconvenient scientific questions, and this is just the way it has to be if you really want to get answers. So where am I going? I'm going here to the information about the monkeypox outbreak from England, technical briefing number 8 in from 2022. And in order to understand this, this is essentially what it looks like. Investigation into the monkeypox outbreak, technical briefing number 8. And you can see that this information here is from about 2020, see, updated September 2022. This was when we were having the monkeypox spreading. Now, in order to grasp what was happening at the time, and as I said, I am very tired of the kind of medicine that is willing to observe very unusual patterns and not willing to ask the hard questions as to what really is going on. So this is what happened when we looked at the timeline, and you can see here no monkeypox cases all the way up to about, this is about May 2022. There's this massive surge. It comes back down, then it seems to disappear. And this happened across the world. And to put it into context, we would have, I think there were only about 1,000 cases in endemic regions per year. And we had, at the time, I think it was 86,000 cases across the world in non endemic regions. And we had no explanation as to why. Now, that to me is just absolutely unacceptable. And so, therefore, now when monkeypox is coming back again, because you didn't answer the question in the first place, you still have no answer now. So, let's just break down some facts. And I'll tell you now why I think that this is very important. So, this is the hard facts. When we're talking about science, give me the facts. This is not any judgment. This is just about what in the world is going on, what demographic is affected, why are they affected, what could be the mechanism. So, here are the facts from the technical briefing. We have here that when they looked at the total number of cases, you can see here that in this cohort, which with regards to gay and bisexual men, it's 96.8%. Now, that cannot be ignored. That has to be really relevant in terms of the demographic. Now, initially, it could be just circulating in one group, but very often you would eventually, because there is bisexual, you would have expected it to spread far more in the heterosexual community eventually, kind of like what happened with HIV. History of STI, sexually transmitted infection in the last year, 50%. 4 to 9 partners, 34%, 10 plus sexual partners, 28.9%, HIV, 25%. Now, this is the other standout thing. 77% were using pre-exposure prophylaxis among the HIV negative. Okay? So these two numbers here are very important. And you can see that they ask some extremely personal questions in order to get to the demographic. That's science. That's what you do. You forget about all the, you just need facts to try and make sense of stuff. The question they didn't ask, and this is what I mean. That was the question I asked at the time. Could you please tell me what percentage of that cohort had their COVID vaccines? Was it number one, number two? What percentage? Number three, break it down for me. Let me look at the facts and judge for myself whether or not it was relevant. They didn't share it. And so you have a situation where there are things that you were not willing to explain. Suddenly now we have another crisis coming up and you still don't know what happened in the first place. That's what happens when you deal with ideology as opposed to science. That's when politics is involved. We should have gotten that data. The data can still be found and it should still be published. I need to know, if I'm looking at it from a research point of view, every piece of data is relevant. So this is the bit now where I'm going to explain my scientific take on what I think happened then and what may be relevant now if we start to see monkeypox significantly spreading in non-endemic regions again. And you have to remember, this is a more serious clade. I think it's clade 2, which tends to have a higher mortality rate. The first one had a low mortality rate, but did cause lots of skin lesions. This one that is spreading has a much higher mortality rate. And so we need to know every ounce of information to try and work out how, who, why people are potentially affected. So at this point, if you're live, yes, you will see this. If not, please go to the Substack link, that which will be there afterwards, and you'll be able to see the full video. And that's essentially what my thought was then. And that's why I was asking, can you please tell me what was their vaccination status? Because in order to corroborate that thought, I need to know. Because if I found 98% were vaccinated, it doesn't mean that it's definitely the cause, but it certainly strengthens the case that we need to understand the mechanism. Then you would want to know, how did somebody who is unvaccinated get the monkeypox? See if there are any specific characteristics about them. It just helps you with the research and the science. So again, this was what I thought in 2022. The combination of the fact that the mRNA was inhibiting the normal response of the immune system inside a cell could predispose an individual cell to become infected and produce more monkeypox. And that's essentially all the science was demonstrating then, and could potentially be relevant now. At the time, I didn't know about that interference, and I had thought that maybe there was some way that the spike protein combines with it to make it more effective. And that's just the exploration of science. At this point, because we may find out something else in the future that goes, okay, this is the explanation. The point is, we need to understand it. We need to study it. We need to not have areas that cannot be challenged or questioned. Kindly, if it would be wonderful if we are able to get all kinds of personal information about people. And again, I remind you as to what it was that they were sharing. I'll try and see if I can make sure that this is bigger so that you can see how much information they are willing to get. This is what it looks like. They tell us about the characteristics sexually, 96.8%, whether or not they had any infections, 50%, how many partners they had in 3 months, whether it was 10. People are telling some really important information because it's important. You just need to know whether or not they had HIV and if they were taking this. Are you telling me that they would not have been willing to tell you which vaccine they had, when, and how many? Of course they would have been. It would be no problem for them. The question is why was it not asked? Or if it was asked, why was it not published? That's really the question that I have. And that's the point that I think is extremely relevant today. The explanation, if you've missed the live, is going to be on Substack. And again, I remind you that if you want to join us for the Health and Wellness Network, the link is here. We're happily accepting donations, but it is free. We want you to join with us. This is just session 1, so please join with us. And if you want to learn more about Storm, the links are there as well. We have a lot of work to cover, lots more hard questions to ask. And believe me, many people don't like me asking these questions. This is why it's so important to continue to converse in an open, free way where we can get the answers that we need. Thank you very much for joining me. And again, keeping you up to date with the science. Another day passed.